On a beautiful Saturday, in an otherwise bleak and frigid January, the Fair Hill, Maryland Meetup Photography Group visited the scenic town of Chesapeake City, Maryland, located on the Chesapeake and Delaware Canal. I tagged along with my Brandywine Photo Collective friend, Gerry Meekins, who studied with Ansel Adams, the renowned landscape photographer. Gerry, like Adams, works in large format photography, but mostly with negatives that measure 4 by 5 inches instead of the 8 by 10 negatives which Adams preferred. Gerry is drawn to subjects with high tonal contrast and interesting design, like this rusty corrugated metal wall. First, he uses a dark filter to view the subject roughly as it will appear in black and white. He wants to get rid of the color so that he's seeing just the light values of the scene. Next, he gets a rough focus by looking at the ground glass at the rear of the camera, and then he uses a spot meter to sample the range of tones, that is, the lights and the darks of the scene. Already he's thinking ahead about how he will develop and print his shot, so he wants to make an exposure that will give him as much detail as possible, particularly in the shadows. Large format cameras have interchangeable lenses set in thin boards, which slip easily into a rack on the front of the camera. Here Gerry has selected the lens he wants and is fitting it into the rack. The lens sits at the front of a flexible leather bellows, which keeps out the light, but allows the lens to be shifted and tilted and swung, so as to produce excellent focus on objects far and near, and keep the vertical lines in the composition in proper perspective. These adjustments are made little by little until things look perfect on the ground glass at the rear of the camera. And of course, when you make a shift or a tilt or swing to alter the perspective, you then have to refocus. It takes a while.
I've raised the front standard to allow me to get the peaks the way I want them. I also changed the perspective a little bit. As you can see, this is pointing up, but this is at a right angle, so that changes the perspective back to make the building look like it does in real life rather than elongating it.
When everything is perfect in his composition, Gerry shoots 2 exposures of the same shot at exactly the same exposure settings. Why 2? I asked him. He explains.
I always take 2 exposures of the same scene. I can have dust within the bellows that lands on the film as I take the shot. I can screw the loading of the film holders up, or I can screw up the unloading of the film holders, and in the development there's also another opportunity for a problem there. I do the exposures, when I develop my exposures, I develop them in separate batches, so I have at least one good exposure come out of each 2 pictures that I take.
I'm really grateful to Gerry for showing me how he shoots 4 by 5, but having spent a great day with him, I've decided I'll stick to less painstaking photography.